Hi everyone, my name is Ronald Robertson and this talk is about characterizing problematic email reply suggestions. In email interfaces and other systems that provide suggestions for computer-mediated communication, including chat and text, providing users with reply suggestions such as those pictured here may simplify or accelerate correspondence. While the success of such systems is typically quantified using the number of suggestions selected by users, this ignores the impact of social context, which can change how suggestions are perceived. To address this, we developed the mixed methods framework involving two phases. In the discovery phase, we used qualitative interviews to identify the social conditions in which email reply suggestions might be problematic. In the evaluation phase, we used crowdsourced experiments to characterize problematic email reply scenarios. In this brief talk, I'll present findings from both phases and conclude with some final thoughts. We define an email reply scenario as the digital analog to the speech situation from speech act theory, where the meaning of an utterance depends on linguistic conventions, the social context, and the speaker's intentions. We break this down into four components for the purposes of our study. The first is social ties, to indicate who is being communicated with. Then we have structural features, which include email greetings and sign-offs. Next is the email act, which is the social purpose of the email. And last are the reply suggestions, which were introduced in 2016 and typically appear as shown here. We identify two junctions at which suggestions can negatively impact users. The first can be described as direct and occurs between computer and human when suggestions are rendered and viewed. If those suggestions are perceived as problematic by the user, they can damage trust in the feature or service. The second can be described as more indirect and occurs between humans when suggestions have already been selected and sent. These suggestions might be perceived as problematic by the recipient or recipients, which can then damage user relations and reputations. After coding our interview transcripts, we found three broad themes that center on usability, email content, and social context. Here we briefly examine these three themes and provide example quotes from participants. In the usability theme, we found that users liked using reply suggestions for email scenarios that require quick and template-like responses. In the email content theme, we found that users were sometimes concerned about sending replies that omitted structural features, such as greetings and salutations, which reply suggestions do by default. They were also worried about suggestions that were too short, especially for negative replies, in these two examples you see here, which generally require greater care and explanation. In the social context theme, we found a variety of factors that influence participants' perceptions of reply suggestions, including communication dynamics, relationship type, and norms and culture. Based on our interview findings, we identified categories of problematic email reply scenarios, then curated and validated a set of vignettes, which we show some examples of here on the left. We then recruited crowd judges to rate our vignettes, as shown here on the right, while we systematically varied the social tie and the presence or absence of structural features. Two main findings emerged from our experiments. First, not all problematic email reply categories are equally salient. This plot shows the email reply category on the y-axis, the Likert scale participants rated scenarios on along the x-axis, and highlights the variability of each rating across our categories. Second, the type of social tie involved can affect how replies are perceived. This plot again has categories along the y-axis, but has social ties along the x-axis, and the cells are colored by how likely people were to send a reply from that category to that social tie without editing. It again shows variability by category, but also by social tie. We conclude by noting that there is a need to develop mixed method discovery frameworks that can help to proactively surface problematic scenarios that we may be unaware of. Our findings indicate that current text recommendation systems for email and other computer-mediated communication technologies remain insufficiently nuanced to reflect the subtleties of real-world social relationships and communication needs. As one interviewee aptly described it, it's not just a relevance problem, it's a problem of empathy. Thank you for listening, and please check out the paper for more details and findings.